What is going on, guys? I figured it's time for an update on the 46. Just kind of show you guys what I've been doing over the last couple weeks, the new parts that have come in, and how much longer is it going to be before this thing's on the road. So I've been putting in a lot of hours on this thing, and body-wise, we're almost there. The door, which is the worst of the damage from the accident. If you remember, this door was torn from the door handle. I was able to use a couple bolts. I welded some bolts to the sheet metal and actually pulled the metal back out, and then I just stitched it up, just welded it up. And little hammer and dolly, got it pretty close. And it still needs probably another sand and another coat of high build, but it's almost there. So with the cab nearly there, I've been picking away at the box. Went around and I fixed that area. That's where the tire shoved into the box. Anywhere where there was an imperfection, there was some runs, quite a few runs along the inside edge. I sanded them all down. I had cracked the paint here from pushing down hard on the box here. When I was trying to open this up for the light, I put a bar in here and pushed down, and the stake pocket didn't allow this to move, and it cracked the paint. So now I'm fixing it. Because this truck was ceramic coated, makes it a little bit more difficult for sanding because it likes to plug up the sandpaper. I'm gonna buzz the whole truck with 220 grit just to kind of get rid of that ceramic coating. And then I'm gonna do a final sand with 400 grit, and then it should be ready to paint. All the front end pieces that were damaged are ready to go. This is the one from the driver's side. This was the one that was right here behind the turbo. And the turbo had shoved into it and actually bent this under. You can see where it bent, where the paint chipped off. That's where the fold was. So I was able to hammer that back with a dolly, and using no filler, I got it pretty darn close. Hood's got a couple chips. Well, it's on this edge. The inside, the bottom, had a few chips. I may just mask it off down here and spray it. I really don't want to paint the whole hood because it's actually in really good shape. I'm really close with the painting. I'm hoping in about a week's time, I'll be able to put this thing in the same color, but in color, painted and done. And then I can start reassembling the body after that. So hopefully in about a week. Now the mechanical side of it. I'm gonna leave the rear axle out for now, just because it makes it easier to slide the box back without the axle sticking out in the box. But I got my axle back. This is the one that had the damaged bearing, and I had 5/8 studs put in it. So the machine shop drilled them out, tapped them. These studs thread in and get a nut on the backside. And I can't run an e-brake now. Those are the shoes that rested back here, but now these nuts actually hit the e-brake. Like, this is the mechanism and stuff that sat in there, and they hit. So I guess I'm not using an e-brake, which I never had hooked up anyway, but I did have plans to hook it up, but now I can't. But the rear end's all back together, ready to go, other than just slapping the brakes back on. Since I plan on running a radial, the suspension will have to get set up different, where the suspension now will separate instead of compress when I launch. So the strange double adjustable shocks I've got, those are 125-pound springs. The idea is when the truck's at rest, I want those compressed quite a bit, maybe only an inch and a half of travel sticking out. And then when I launch, it will extend. So to get as much travel as I can, I feel like I need to go to a lighter spring. So those are 125s. I picked up a set of 85s, and we're gonna try those out. I'm gonna put those together and we'll see how this truck sits. And I'm hoping those will work out better. And I pulled the transmission out because last year I hurt the converter again. And I figured I got to get it fixed. So while I'm pulling everything apart, I pulled the tranny out, sent it back to the guys who built it. They pulled it apart and found what they think was the problem all along. So how it got overlooked by them and myself, I don't know. But what they found was the pan was actually bent in on the bottom. I don't know how we all overlooked it, but it seems like that may have been bent right from when I got this thing from the scrapyard. Because basically since the first time I ever let go of the trans brake, I've been hurting the converter. And what I was hurting in the converter was the lockup clutches, which I don't even have the lockup hooked up yet. It's not even wired up. So the lockup should never be engaging. But the way the lockup works on the 4L80 is it needs constant pressure all the time to stay disengaged. As soon as you engage the lockup, it cuts off the oil pressure and the lockup clutches will then apply. With the pan being bent in, it was starving the transmission for oil. Therefore, the lockup clutches were never receiving the proper pressure to keep them disengaged, so they were always dragging. And by them dragging, it was warping them, and then when they warped, they would engage more, and it would bog the motor down to the point where it stalled me out a few times. And twice now, they've had to cut the converter open and replace the clutches, but now they think they found the problem. Because with this pan bent in, there's not a lot of clearance. There's very little clearance between this pan and the filter. The filter sits down here. And it's just a large flat filter surrounded in steel with a hole about this big in the bottom. And this pan pushed in was completely blocking off that hole. So it had a very hard time sucking up oil. He had to replace the clutches again in it because they were smoked, and all the bushings. All the bushings had scoring from oil starvation. So that's what kind of led him to look a little deeper. And yeah, I mean, we all kind of overlooked it. I overlooked it, he overlooked it. It happens. We're hoping that was a problem all along, and hopefully it's dealt with now. Now, can this be solved by putting a better pan on? Yes. I don't have that option though, because an aluminum pan, which is more rigid, you can't bend it in, they all sit lower. I haven't seen any aluminum pans that have this depth to it. They all sit lower. They usually have fins on the bottom. I only have 3.5 inches of ground clearance. So maybe that was my problem. Maybe I bottomed out on something. But the option to go to a deeper pan, I don't have that. I have to stick with the factory pan, just given my ride height. So I got to be a lot more careful now. It's part of the reason why I have a legit transmission jack. So I don't have to put a regular jack in the middle of the pan, even with a board, nothing. I can just use transmission jack. And to complement the transmission, I bought a new converter. I bought a Yank 3400 stall. This is only a single disc lockup. My other converter was a triple disc, but I don't really have intentions on using the lockup while making a pass. I'm only limited to an 850 anyway in the quarter, and I feel like I can easily achieve that with just the horsepower this thing's gonna make. So I don't think I'll ever need to engage the lockup to meet my limits. So the single disc will just be used for street driving on the highway and stuff like that. And yeah, this converter is a badass converter. Like, these are in some of the fastest street cars out there. So we're throwing a Yank in it. So before I start moving the truck around and separating, I want to get the transmission back up because I've got all my hardware Everything's laying out. I don't want to have to move everything. So I want to get the transmission back in place so it gets everything up off the floor, and then I can move the truck forward, separate the box, and do its final couple layers of sanding. That is a nice looking piece of billet. Well, guys, we've hit a snag. Not good. And the snag being the snout in the middle of the converter is not long enough. It does not slide into the end of the crank like it's supposed to. So it only sticks out about 3/16 of an inch past the mating surface of the converter, and it should be closer to 1/2 inch. My flex plate has a slight dish to it, and there is zero engagement with this and the end of the crank. My other converter, the one over on the floor, my old one, has 5/8 of an inch is how much it sticks out. This converter is a little bit thicker to make up for the mid plate, so I don't have to run the spacers. So 5/8 would be a little too long. So if you take 1/8 of an inch off, this should have been 1/2 inch, but it's only 3/16 of an inch past the mating surface. I've already measured it. And that dish is probably about 3/16 of an inch too. So there's no engagement into the end of the crank up there. So that's not good. Now, the other converter is back. It is fixed. I should be able to put that in and be fine, but I paid good money for this converter, which is supposed to perform better. So I'm gonna get in touch with Yank Converters in the morning, and we're gonna get this sorted out. Obviously, it was miscommunication between myself and the salesman. So sit tight, I'm gonna figure this out. All right, guys, it's been a couple weeks, and we have a solution for the converter. Now, with me being in Canada and the converter coming from the US, it's a little hard and a little bit more expensive for me to just send the converter back to have it repaired in the most ideal fashion, which would be to have a longer snout put on it. However, they got to do it where they got to cut the bottom off of it, or whatever the process is. The best fix, because they sent it to me as if I had a flat a flex plate. Mine is a dished, so it needs to be a longer snout. So what they have is these guys, just a simple spacer that slides over, and very simple, fixed. So that's all we're gonna do. Just get that guy on there. So that resolves that issue. Now, because it took a little bit of time to get that, I didn't want this project to stall out and nothing get done, because I do have a deadline. And I decided I'm gonna sand it down and paint it. So I just painted this thing last night. And we are painted the same color again. But a much better job this time. The paint laid way nicer. I have way less runs. I've only got just a couple runs. I actually right here, right here, there's one of my runs, and you'll see this trash on the paint. Believe it or not, it was hot in here last night, and I dripped sweat right there while I was painting. So I took a rag and tried to wipe it up, and ended up kind of butchering it a bit, but I'm gonna wet sand that all out and we'll be fine. But this all turned out awesome. 3 coats of clear on it. I still have to give it a wet sand and buff. There's a few little specks of lint or dust or something in it, and then this is just dirt. This is where I masked it off right here. There's a seal that goes along here because I didn't want to paint the firewall. So I am happy, very, very happy. Definitely came out way better this time. And after a quick little cut and polish, it'll be show worthy again. All right, guys, I am getting close with this thing. Everything on the back is pretty much in, except for my aluminum panels up top, which I'll be getting to shortly. But all the rear suspension parts are back in. Brake lines are hooked up again and bled. I bled them before I put the wheels on. Wheels are styling. But everything is turning out awesome. So the paint job turned out amazing compared to the first time. I mean, there's still some flaws given the garage I'm painting in. I did have a few specks of lint or whatever fall into the paint. When you look across the top, you'll see, I mean, right there, you can see a spot right there, right? Those little spots. So I have to wet sand it and they'll get rid of all that, which is what I started doing on the back here. Under the taillights, like, spraying inside those taillight bezels is difficult, and I knew I was going to get runs because I did that the first time. So I just took a razor blade, and you stand a razor blade up on the edge and you just scrape, and I was able to scrape all the runs off this side and that. And then I'm doing a wet sand on the back. So I've hit this side with 1000 grit. And after scraping this and hit with 1000 grit, you can see there's the odd little low spot there, little low spot there. But I'm trying to get rid of the little bit of orange peel that's in the paint. I don't know if you can tell when I move the camera around, there is a little bit. So my goal is to kind of wet sand the whole truck down, because it is going to go back in to get ceramic coated again, but not until about June. So I've got some time. But before I put the truck down on the ground, it's easier when it's up in the air to do these spots. So I'm doing the back of the box right now while it's convenient. And then over the next couple months, I'll just pick away at, you know, do a box side here, box side there, whatever. But the truck overall is in really good finished shape. So yeah, just picking the worst of it right now. And I also got the transmission in. It's all tucked up in there. Belly pan's back on. Now I did notice a problem. It's kind of hard to see here, but see how this front tire is kind of turned outward that way, right? It's not perfectly in line. It looks like the wheels turn that way. And when you come this way, this wheel is turned that way. So I didn't notice this until I got it all put back together, but obviously there's something else still bent. So I was looking at the steering arms down here, and this one right here is bent. She's bent pretty good. And I didn't really notice it the first when I took everything apart. So I did order new ones. I got the paint drying up here right now. And once I get this on the ground, I'm gonna swap out the arm on this side because I'm pretty sure it's just this side that's bent. This is the side that took the hit. So that side shouldn't have bent at all. But that's the update for now. We are really close. And once I get this thing wet sanded, I'm gonna get the Zeus fasteners marked out for my panels while I can just get underneath and mark them all out. And then this is gonna get put on the ground because, you know, back window's gonna go in easy, front window's gonna go in easy. We're almost there. But everything's looking really good to be ready for race season. I just gotta keep picking away at this thing. All right, guys, another week has passed and we're in good shape. I've knocked a lot of this out. She is almost there. Almost as in like, I'm about to put fuel in this thing. We're gonna fire it up. And I gotta get this truck out of here. I'm gonna put it in the front garage because I'm waiting on a couple things. I've got the dash out of it right now. I'm working on getting a few features working on the Pro Dash, one of which being the trans temp sensor. I've had no luck with these stupid 2-inch things. So I'm trying to get it into the Pro Dash. I just got my fuel sending unit working. See how it's reading 5? Because she's empty right now. But I finally have a fuel gauge and I'm just trying to get the temp sensor working. I've got a 1/8 NPT dash or NPT fitting in my trans pan, and I tried just getting one of the cheap universal sensors in there, but I can't get it to, they don't send you any scaling information or anything like that when you buy one of those cheap sensors. And I've tried different combinations to get it to work in the dash and it's just not reading correctly. So I'm gonna be calling Low Dollar Motorsports in the morning. They have a 1/8 NPT temp sensor that works for like the race pack dash, and I want to call them and see if it'll work for the Holley Pro Dash. If that's the case, I'm going to order that, and then when it comes in, we'll get that put in and scaled correctly. The other thing I'm waiting for, which I've ordered, I'm just waiting on it, is this header. So from the accident, just to give you an idea of how far stuff was pushed over, this tire hit the turbo hit the fender here. So this got pushed over to the point where it actually bent the header, and I wasn't sure if the header was bent until I got everything else bent back. And now that it's all bent back, this turbo's sitting in, and I tried using a bar to bend the header back out, and it's just not gonna go. Because when you stand back here, get closer. It might not be too noticeable, but this turbo's sitting down lower and in. So we need to get her back out. So just waiting on the header, then I can get that quickly swapped out. That'll move the turbo back out where it's supposed to be. You can kind of see the exhaust here is, it kind of goes out and angles back in because this turbo is actually turned inward. So we need to get her turned back out. But I can't stop while waiting for parts. That's why I'm just gonna get this thing fired up, put in the front garage, because All my steel is here, as is my axle, tires, everything, to build a new trailer. I'm building a small enclosed trailer to pull behind this truck because I've already entered into a drag and drive for the year, and it's coming up in 5 weeks, so I got to get moving. I can't stop. Some of you may remember when I built this. I mean, I gotta wash this thing. I have a trailer hitch already built into it. Behind the license plate, folds up. And I've wired in my trailer plug. So even to wait a week to get all the parts I need to finish this, I can't afford to lose a week. So we're gonna fire the truck up and get it out of here so that I can get going on this trailer right away. I've also got all my aluminum panels, the holes drilled for the Zeus fasteners. These are gonna get primered and painted the same time as the trailer. That's why they're not on yet. Again, gotta get this truck out of here so I can get moving on this stuff. So let's get some fuel in it, get it fired up, and get it out of here. E85 just smells like a good time. If you've ever grown up on a farm, this smell will bring back memories. It smells just like silage, which is ground up corn. Fuel gauge is working. We're reading 44 on the fuel level. All right, let's embark. Let's see what she's got. Fuel pressure is good. No starter. No starter, eh? Because it's not plugged in. Didn't plug in the starter. All right, let's try it again. She's in park. Exhaust leak over here. I'm sure something's bent in there. All right, guys, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. Everything so far. I mean, that was a short drive from garage to garage, but it moved. And when I was in the back garage, I just put in reverse, and I felt it pull in reverse. So transmission's working the way it should so far, but everything's looking good. Started to get some heat in her. Got a few small touches to do on it yet, but very minor things. I'm gonna get it sorted out, and that'll wrap up this video. We're really close, guys. And then, like I said, next video we're gonna get going on a trailer, and should be a good time. I actually enjoy building trailers, and I've never done an enclosed one, so I think it's gonna look really good. It's gonna function really well. And if I'm not the fastest guy there, I'm definitely going to win the beauty contest because that trailer is going to look sweet. So that's it for now. We'll see you guys next time.